Dakota Huntley, Evan Pollock, the master cinematographers, directors, videographers, and good all around beer drinkers. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, man.
Cheers.
So, Dakota, I've known you since Western. We played soccer together, and obviously, I've seen your whole career blossom into this amazing thing. And you've actually, and Evan, I've just kind of known you through Dakota, and we've never met in person, but we've met virtually a couple times.
Yeah.
And you also have a company similar to what Dakota does, and what you guys and very well known in the area, both of you. And one of the things that's been pretty cool to see you guys collaborate on, because I remember Dakota, you came and talked to me about Brewingham. What is Brewingham, and how did you guys collaborate on that?
Oh man, what a story.
Yeah. So what was it? About it's 2017, early 2017. I had done a project back in 2016 about the seafood industry here in Bellingham. It was for the Bellingham Sea Feast. And so I made a small kind of a cine doc for them called Servants of the Salish Sea. And that was as I was transitioning my business from mostly like wedding films to like more commercial and doc stuff.
Mm-hmm. And that's right around the time that we met, actually.
Yeah. So we met like kind of as I was transitioning out of wedding films, and was introduced to Dakota through another mutual filmmaker. And so when we started kind of talking, and we realized a lot of our passions aligned we're very similar basically. And so when we decided to take this project on, I was sitting down at a table in Wander with Chad from Wander, and I was actually sitting there with the Willows Inn chef, which is Blaine Wetzel. I was going to be doing a project with him, and so we met about some stuff, and I just talked with Chad, and he talked about how he loved the beer community here in Bellingham. And I was like, well, what if I did a short little 5 to 10 minute film about the Bellingham beer scene? And so that was kind of like the initial nugget. And so I put it into the ear of one of our friends, Damian Vines, who's a photographer, and he's a huge beer snob here as well. And he immediately said, yes, let's do it. He almost like within an hour, he had put me in touch with like Scott Pelton from the Tap Trail and said, yeah, here's what he wants to do. Here's what we want to accomplish.
He's got a lot of good connections.
Yeah.
He's very in tight with the beer community.
Yeah, which was really, really helpful. And so I said, okay, we're diving into this thing. We're diving into this idea. And so from that point, Dakota and I talked about some concepts, and originally we were just kind of coming onto it as a small little 10-minute thing. Then we decided to plot out what was it?
It was a roundtable discussion.
Yeah.
It was around the time of year where the Hollywood Reporter does their roundtables with, the actors and actresses, directors, all that. And we always loved watching those, and the style of them is something that we really wanted to capture. And we're like, well, let's just do a roundtable with all the, head brewers and owners of the Bellingham breweries and just have a discussion. And it was amazing how well it worked out.
Yeah. And it opened up this can of worms of like, this is way beyond 10 minutes. This is like a feature length.
There's no way we can contain this in a 10-minute can.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the discussion, I think, lasted for around 3 hours. Yeah. And I swear it was just 3 hours of just gold information. It's just like, wow, there's no like dead space. There's no stumbling on stuff. It was just like a group of people, like just friends, just chatting about beer. And it was so incisive and just awesome to hear. Yeah. And I just remember being behind the camera like, wow, we are getting a lot of good information.
Indeed.
Like, do we need to edit this at all, or should we just roll this for 3 hours and see what people think?
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. And then after that, Evan and I went to Yakima to see them harvesting the hops. And Evan cut together an amazing little short, just like 1 minute piece, and people went nuts for that. Yeah. So the combination of the roundtable and that video, people were like, well, what's next?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That was a very aesthetically pleasing video. I remember that. Yeah. All of the stuff that you guys do has this like very like kind of has an old school feel to it a little bit, but it's got like this tint to it, and it's like I've never been so enthralled in people like moving hops from one machine to another or like harvesting, and I'm just sitting here like, whoa, this is what Dakota's doing. This is awesome.
That's our job. It's like,
Evan guy.
This look interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, what are you guys drinking right now? Because at 12 o'clock on Tuesdays, it's only right that we drink beer, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm currently drinking the Kolsch and North Fork collaboration, the Plank Brothers Pilsner. That's actually supposed to be Eric Jorgensen, the snowboarder and head brewer at North Fork, and then Wes Finger, the skier, the raccoon, the head brewer at Kolsch. So they put together the Plank Brothers Pilsner.
Yeah.
Love it.
And I have the Aslan and Freen collaboration, the Hazy Pale. I always love their can work. They have some of the best cans in the game.
A lot of
fun.
fun.
Love it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. And you, sir?
What you got?
I am drinking a Lost Giants pineapple cider. So they don't necessarily brew beer, but they is it crafting cider? Is that the right term for it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, craft cider.
And so for those of you that are watching, and like even if you don't like beer, you've probably been to one of these places. And we truly do have an amazing beer community and craft cider community and just like tap house community and just an all around pretty awesome community in general. But it's very centric. We got voted the #1 beer snobbiest city in the country. What does that mean to be a beer snob? Tell me, maybe describe your beer from a beer snob's perspective, and then maybe we'll get an idea.
Oh man. Well, it's so funny is because I wouldn't say I have become a beer snob only because I live in a place that has award-winning beer.
Yeah, I will say through making this documentary, it did expand my knowledge of like all this kinds of beer. There were so many beers that I didn't even know existed. I'd never heard of all these different kind of German lagers and Dunkels and Weisses, and I just had no idea. And then you start trying all of them, and you just kind of develop this taste, and you start to think like, oh, I prefer this over this. It's like, oh, is that a little too juicy? I don't really like juicy. I like more hoppy. You're like, oh, is that too hoppy? And so I feel like that kind of is where it expands from, just having such a wide variety of beer available in Bellingham that people can expand out, and they're not just having IPAs and a lot of other light beers and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just having a lot of craft variety in town, I feel contributes to that.
Yeah. And I think it's also,
snobbiness.
it's also not just like the variety, it's the quality of variety. It's everyone that puts out a good beer. I think there are a couple of people when we did interviews with the brewers, it's like you can't be just a brewery in Bellingham. You can't half-ass it. You have to be an amazing brewery in Bellingham. You can't just give out beer, mediocre beer, because everyone's giving out award-winning beer, the best beer. So you have to be like cream of the crust, kind of beer. That way people will not only come to your place, but also enjoy such a great craft. And so, everyone's kind of found their niche. Chuck and Nut's all about the German style beers. Kolsch usually puts out the big IPAs. And then you've got Boundary Bay, who's more comfort, a little bit sweeter type of beers, which is amazing. They've kind of found their malt goodness. And then they've got like crazy barrel game with Wander. Then you've got North Fork, who does anything. They'll just like put
very experimental.
Yeah, which I love. It's like the mad scientist, which is so much fun to see. So many people trying different aspects and just really diving into.
Aslan's all organic.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's really, really fun to see.
Each brewery has its great niche and its aspect. And what's like through documenting this, what's cool is like none of these breweries are taking business from one another. It all depends on what kind of vibe you want for that day. It's like, do I want this? Well, then we're going to go to Wander. Do I want that? Well, we're going to go to Boundary. Everyone prefers one or the other, and everyone works in harmony. So
what you're saying and what I'm understanding, and I've kind of gotten to know this over the time that we've been here, is with the Bellingham beer scene, their core commonality really is that no matter what, you're going to get good quality beer. You can't have subpar beer and be in Bellingham, being alive in Bellingham, right? So what do you think? Like, what defines, outside of having good quality beer, what defines good Bellingham quality beer? Like, what do you guys see as like maybe like a vibe that you like, or maybe something that other people are attracted to?
Man,
I feel like a big part of that comes from the collaboration that all the brewers have together. It's not just one singular mind putting together a beer in some cases, but it is a collaboration of all these different brewers coming together and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't. Every beer that is made isn't always going to be a grand slam. There definitely is some experimentation that goes on, and some of them don't work out, and then you just work out the kinks, and over time you just find the perfect beer. And this is all from an outsider looking in kind of perspective. This is just from observation. But yeah.
And especially when you have that amount of, those incredibly talented mindsets, and somebody's like, I really want to know how to do this better, or, they just reach out. And I think that's the coolest thing about that community aspect today. People aren't afraid to reach out, or people aren't afraid to help. I mean, I know that a lot of people have reached out and helped each other, which is really cool to see. That community aspect, people are choosing community. That's our slogan. Our log line is, in this beer town, people choosing community and collaboration over competition, which has redefined the landscape of our town. So, so
very beer-centric town.
Yeah.
So you guys have two perspectives. Well, really you have three. So you've got your perspective on the beer community, right? And how, and I don't want to turn this dark, but I want to talk a little bit more about what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have this point where January, right? All these breweries are open. They're probably gearing up for another big year. They're probably expanding, they're growing, they're creating all these new beers. You guys are hitting the pavement hard in documenting all of that while you're also doing your other films and other shorts and other, what projects, and maybe not as many weddings these days. Tell me a little bit more about January to now, what that's been like, at first, like a splash of cold water. This is the new reality. Okay, sweet. We're awake. What are we doing? What's that been like for you both in kind of all of those different worlds?
Yeah.
It definitely starting to feel the pinch a bit. People don't really want you coming in their space to, film, and this, let alone, a big crew. So it's much more solo work, or definitely just trying to navigate that. I mean, honestly, with the documentary, we got very lucky with our timing.
Oh my gosh.
We finished up a big block of filming with crew that was coming from all over the country, and it was right at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We finished right at we finished right before the shutdowns, like a week and a half before the shutdowns. We finished our big phase, which we brought in some crew, some extreme sports crew, because they were doing some cable cam and some gimbal stuff that out on the mountain on Galbraith and everything, which is great. So we had crews of 10 to 15 people on some days. And so those were 2 weeks full of just intense production. And we did that February through beginning of March.
Yeah.
And once that ended, that's when the tide started to change, and we were gearing up for some big shoots for, some B-roll shoots, filling in with some major characters within the documentary, and then all of a sudden shut down. Everything gets shut down. And so we kind of sat down well, what do we do? What do we do? I mean, that kind of affects, big conferences that we're supposed to be marketing at got shut down or canceled, postponed, canceled, all the above. The story. Everything's been paused or canceled or something. So that really affects how we are able to promote the film as well, because we were anticipating a September release of the film.
We're still optimistic, but who knows what's going to happen.
Exactly. And so I think with this 2-month delay has really kind of set something, changed our dynamic, as well as introduce a potential new thread, which I think is really interesting, because now you're seeing all these people put into a really dark period of time. You're seeing COVID-19 take over a lot of people's lives, not necessarily taking over, but making everyone adapt in a very, very trying time, and trying to figure out how to still keep your business alive while also being safe and responsible. So that's also something that we've been trying to capture, because this is history. This is history in the making. So you can't turn a nose to that and say, I'm going to be staying here in my little box. I got to be, even though I'm going to be safe and just taking safety precautions, I have to be out there documenting it as filmmakers. And, we're kind of acting as journalists as well, because this is history. Yeah. So even though we stripped down our crew to just the two of us able to go out, and some breweries are allowing us to get, come in and even keeping a safe distance, gloves, mask, all that jazz, being able to capture that, because we feel it's an important, interesting potential plot thread that could bring a lot of interesting new ideas, and the ways that people are continuing to be supported through the community. So.
The way that people pivot.
Yeah.
Hey.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. That was a buzzword. Let's talk a little bit about fear. I mean, let's get a little bit vulnerable and take this as far as you want. But
yeah.
How were you afraid? And like, what was that feeling like for you the minute you go, Evan, for you, like with, a kid, Dakota, we don't know if you have kids. We don't know, but no.
Oh man.
Just kidding. But the point is, like, you have that moment of fear. What was your first feeling like? How did you process that?
I feel like a lot of people, initially you hear about this virus is coming around, and it feels like a lot of things always get talked up. It's like, okay, we'll see what happens. But then it definitely did start to feel more and more serious. And my biggest fear came from spreading it. I am not necessarily scared of getting it. I'm just terrified of spreading it. And that comes into play when, like, we're going into a brewery. It's like, okay, where was I last week? Am I good? And like constantly sanitizing. And it's like, oh, did I touch my face? So they're just little things. But, I have family members that are, old enough that if they were to get it, it could be a bad outcome. So that was my biggest fear, was affecting someone that I love and, leading them down a dark path.
Yeah.
But that's really the thing that I fear the most, is just spreading it, the unknown. And especially since, you don't even know for a couple of weeks. I mean, at most, if you have it, it's just, you never know. You never know what's happening.
Yeah, for me, obviously, a bunch of jobs got canceled. Yeah. A bunch of work got pressed, put on pause, and people are starting to kind of take all their marketing funds and put it towards other things, which I'm like, well, that's our bread and butter right there.
You feel bad asking, oh, do you want to pay for this video? I know you just laid off a bunch of people, but
and a lot of people asking for personal handouts, which I'm happy to do, and I love being able to support our people, but at the same time, we also have to support our growing businesses and, at least be able to get by. And so with all that being put on pause, it's been a little bit, not a little bit, it's been difficult. It has been difficult and unfortunate, obviously, with the film being postponed, but at the same time, with all the other things, not only the film, but like with clients not able to keep their business going up, and that, this is going to be going on for the next 2 to 3 years from people catching up, and so people trying to catch up means we also have to play catch up. And so trying to find creative alternatives has been difficult. It's, we're all talking about how to pivot. We're all talking about how do we continue to serve people. It's like, well, do we start doing weddings again? Do we start doing other elements? Do we, shoot material for businesses at half the price? So I think all those conversations are being had currently, but no one wants to film themselves like right now, because everyone feels like they're at their worst, and no one wants to be captured at their worst. And I think that's also another thing that's really, for us, we wanted that drama, because that is, that is true, that is in touch with people where they're at right now. But everyone, obviously, if they're being filmed, they want to be at their best. Like, we want to be presenting our best foot forward. It's like, well, sometimes you got to showcase the worst to showcase the best.
Why is vulnerability so important? I mean, it seems kind of like a rhetorical question, but like, in your experience as filmmakers and in trying to encourage business owners, there's this whole, like, I'm going to put on my best and sell my Sunday best, right? But in reality, like, what humans connect with the most is who you authentically are, right?
Yeah, you can relate to, someone that's struggling. It's like, okay, I'm having the same problems myself. Okay, I'll listen to you.
Yeah. It's all about relatability, and people want to see the triumph of the human spirit. People want to see the triumph of, if you just had to watch the movie that was nothing but positives, you'd be done. You'd be checked out. It's like, everything's going well for this person. Who cares?
Life sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you're able to introduce that drama and a little bit of the human struggle to see people achieve those goals, that's where, despite all the onslaught and the obstacles that they were faced with, that's when it becomes a compelling story that is implanted in people's memories, because otherwise it just becomes a puff piece. And no one likes a good puff piece, or, no one likes a puff piece unless it's like literally, a 3-minute puff piece, because otherwise you're checked out. But you have to have that human drama. It's storytelling. It's the hero's quest. It's, if you look any story, it's always the hero's quest of, obstacle, resolution, next obstacle, big climactic, bigger mountain to climb. I don't know, all the wonderful hero tropes and story tropes. I mean, if there was there would be no Avengers Endgame without Thanos, so you can't have them just we got this. Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't make sense. And so,
but always trying to project optimism and positivity as well. You don't have to be the biggest cheerleader, but you can say, hey, we are struggling, but we're going to do everything in our power to get through this. And we'll do it together and keep some positivity. Because if you just only stay negative, it's not going to help anything. You got to look forward with some optimism and hope for the best. And try your hardest to make everything work out.
Go ahead.
Just vulnerability with being open about it. I think it's really, really helpful for businesses to recognize that it's okay to be vulnerable. You don't have to be the hero in every situation. So,
right. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about what you said, Evan. Something interesting you said was that we're okay. So we want to support our community and we want to be there, but then there's a balance of that and like supporting yourself. Like if you don't have water in your glass, you can't give water to others, right? Or beer, for the sake of this conversation, if you don't have beer in your glass, you can't cheers to others, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, indeed.
But tell me a little bit more. How do you maintain a mindset as business owners for Brewingham and then also for your individual businesses of giving and supporting your friends and family while also maintaining like we know that it's a tough time for everybody. It's hit you guys, it's hit us, it's hit everybody. How do you do that in a time of like perceived scarcity, right?
Yeah. It's been difficult, obviously, like right at the very beginning of this, when the shutdowns happened, Dakota and I teamed up and we did this video for Brisk Manufacturing called We Got This America. And that was a film that we produced, pro bono, because we knew that this was going to be very important for people to see and to recognize that we need hope in these situations. And then when people saw that, obviously, then there were a lot of people contacting us, hey, can you do a video for us? Can you do a video for this? I'm like, that's great and everything, but we can't do everything pro bono just because don't really have the availability to be able to just give all our services away. And that's okay because, other people will find ways of pivoting. And I understand that we all need to help out each other, even in times of need. It's just hard when you're being pulled in so many different directions and you can't support your family. Yeah. And I think that's a big thing to recognize is balance, being able to give as much as you can and being able to give, but you can't always give until you're empty because then you have nothing else to give, So I think that there's a balance of being able to give and being able to receive and being able to say, hey, this is a situation in which we can give our services as long as there's a promise for maybe something on the back end once you guys do get up to your feet. So it is a lot of
negotiation of terms.
Yeah, negotiation of terms. And I mean, we're obviously, needless to say, we're all being affected by this. And so I think it really is being creative with how those terms are negotiated and saying, yes, I would love to do this pro bono. What do in the end, every business has to ask for themselves, what is my business benefiting from this? It's great to be charitable and giving to your community, but at the same time, you have to find a way to continue moving your business forward as well. If you keep on taking steps back, you're not able to, move your business forward as you continue to support everyone else. So I think there is a balance of being able to give as much as you can to the people around you and being able to be extremely charitable, while at the same time recognizing that I can't be charitable unless I'm able to feed my family, feed this business that's continuing to grow. Because if the bigger the business grows and the more the business grows, the more charitable you can become. So I know it's just, again, like a life balance. It's everyone needs that life balance of becoming charitable towards others as well as being profitable and making progress within your own business. So
yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question. Maybe it's been spouting stuff.
No. And do you feel like there's also a balance of, well, I don't want to say resentment, but like when you start to do too much for free and part of what you do, that's like your craft, that's your profession, your thing, your passion, and you love that, you would like, we would do what we do for free, but we're not going to do it for free, right? It's like this. Do you ever say that? Like, God, I love this so much, what I'm doing, that I do it for free, but gotta make money. I'm growing a business. So would you feel like somebody that maybe is giving too much, like there's a balance of giving too much to the point where there's resentment created, and that's also a negative effect of that?
I feel like there would be some resentment. I mean, but I think that I tell everyone who comes into this business, you say, you got to love it first, because if you don't love it, you are going to get burned out immediately because there is so much that you give up. So there's a lot of education you have to do with people saying, this is why you need to invest in video. And then also a lot of times that you just give because you're so passionate about what's going on.
Yeah, that's one of the things that they say, like, you know, how you ruin your passion, turn it into a career. It's like you really do have to love it a lot, because you are going to go through some really tough times. And if you don't love it enough, you're just going to end up quitting on it. And, you know, for some people, there's nothing wrong with that. That just means that wasn't their purpose in life. But, you know, if you really do love it, you'll stick with it no matter what. It might not always be fun, but you love it. I still, you know, wake up with a burning passion to tell good stories. But
and there are stories. There are stories that you exchange. Like, I want to tell this great story, but it doesn't have a lot of budget. There's this other thing that I really don't find creatively passionate about, but it has a good budget behind it. So you're able to find that balance of like doing the bread and butter work and then being able to support the passionate side of doing the smaller projects that need more oomph behind them. So I think, as you continue to grow your business, there is a balance between doing too much for free, doing too much for pro bono, because you will eventually get to a point where you'll resent it. You will resent it because you're no longer, somebody's deciding to call me, and I'm going to mute that.
Should we add him into the call? I mean, why not?
You're tuned in to Pivot.
There's, I mean, everything in balance, everything in, I think that's in every aspect of life. There always has to be balance. There always has to be a balance of being able to give freely, but also being able to recognize how much giving will literally handicap you to a point where you can no longer give. And no one wants that.
And making sure you have a very solidified terms, like, okay, I'm going to give this video to you for half price. For this, you are getting this. Because I've definitely had it multiple times where, like, people think that the price is like a one-time fee where they can just ask for everything. Like, can I get like 12 different deliveries? And then can we actually shorten the shot halfway through to about just a half second down? Okay, actually, no, bring it back. No, actually, take it back. It's like, okay, I'm putting more hours of work into this for free right now. So you like definitely have to have your terms defined. Like, okay, I'm going to help you out, but here's the thing. You're only going to be getting this. If we're going to do more, then we're going to have to go with the normal price, you know. Making sure you're not getting it all boils down to just not getting taken advantage of for your kindness.
It's a new game as well. It's education. You have to educate a lot of people. You know, it's still considered a new game. You know, even though it's been around for a while, a lot more people are doing it, and a lot of people are starting to get privy to it. And so when people are starting to recognize the value of commercial filmmaking for their business, people are recognizing, you know, are just saying, I don't know what this costs. And so you have to do a lot of education. So, and that's okay. You know, we get to a point where we get to be the experts in situations. So
absolutely. And I know, absolutely. And I know Dakota knows this, that I value content so much. Like these channels of
great. You do great with it.
Who we authentically are, right? Like how do you tell your story? Maybe talk a little bit about, and you don't have to dive super far into it, but like if you're educating somebody, maybe at a time like this when their budget gets cut a little bit, you know, where you have to come in and you really have, you know your value, your people know your value, Dakota knows your value, you know Dakota's value, but the challenge is that somebody's like, yeah, but money. Yeah, but I could spend money on, or I could save money or put money towards this. How do you present content, and how, like, because I know how important it is. How can you, what message could you give people that watch this, that are business owners, how important that is and why it's important?
Well, we're currently using video right now to communicate. So I feel like that's a huge spot. You know, I mean, like the more platforms that come out with TikTok, you know, Instagram, Facebook, there's so many, you know, digital platforms. There's so many things that are being out there that are supporting video and constant video types of media. So you think about the value of video media today, and the quality of that is so vital. And so, yes, you could totally go out and invest in other things, but you have to understand that when you're able to communicate with people, people stream more things now than ever before. And so it's like, how are you going to get people to stream your thing? You have to give good quality. You got to have top writers. You have to have top production, and be able to find ways of engaging your audience right within the first 5 seconds. And so it's really becomes a game of educating people of the value of, if you're going to showcase this to other clients, if you're going to showcase this video to other clients, educating on them on why it's best to put your best foot forward in videoing or in video promotional materials. Because if you don't, it reflects to other clients and other people. It's like, well, I don't want to invest in this aspect. So I will, why would I invest in, why would I invest in them? Because if you're not able to put your best foot forward with a video, if you're not able to put your best foot forward with a, promotional material, then you're really not supporting your business well. Then you don't really believe in your business well enough to be able to put that investment forward.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my
makes sense.
And I feel like also I've definitely gotten to a point in my business, and I mean, both of us as well, it's like in that initial contact, in that initial meeting, you really want to make sure, like, so what's your plan with this video? Like, what are you going to do when it's all finished? And I mean, I've made countless videos where the client will put it up on their YouTube page, and that's it. It'll get 30 views, and it will do nothing for them. You need to start looking at these films that we make companies as not just a one-time fee, it's an investment in your business. This should be making you money in the long run. A video that costs X amount should make you 10X in the long run if you have the right plan for it. So it's like getting a defined thing of like, okay, how are you going to be advertising this? Are you going to be doing a broadcast, local, for local cable? Are you going to be doing Facebook ads? Are you going to be doing Instagram ads? You want to make sure. And then a lot of times when you bring that up, they'll be like, oh, well, we hadn't really thought about that. And then you position yourself as the expert, like, okay, here's how you should be doing this to make the most amount of money back. So in a way, like doing some pro bono work, that initial time, like, okay, I'll make this first one for free. We'll develop a plan. When you see how this plans out for you and it starts making you money, then the next one we can look at my regular price sheet or terms sheet kind of thing. So just positioning yourself as a way of like knowing how the video is going to work for the company is very important. Being able to pivot yourself as that kind of an expert, because we can, we make pretty images, but at the end of the day, if no one's seeing them, it's not going to do anything for you.
Exactly.
Like the Bellingham video. Yeah. The one you did for me when I first went out on my own, and you got something like 7,500 views. Cause I mean, it was all about like, it was a very simple video. It was really nice. It was like just places in Bellingham, and it was very, very pretty. It was very well done, but it also had a story and a theme. And that was one of the things you first asked me was, well, what's your purpose with this? What do you want to do? And I'm like, I just want to showcase who I am and where we live. Like, simple. And then boom, all of a sudden, I mean, how many shares but that doesn't matter if we don't have a distribution plan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you think about these big budget movies, it's like, in the places that people make the Super Bowl ads, it's like the reason that they make a Super Bowl ad is they make an ad for the Super Bowl to be distributed onto the Super Bowl, within the Super Bowl show and the game and everything. So, and then you think about all these other movies, these big motion pictures, their budgets behind their distribution are about as much as the film. How it cost to make the film, like $250 million to make the film, about $200 million to promote the film.
Yeah, you think production on Avengers could have probably only been like maybe 50 million, and then the other 200 million goes to marketing and advertising.
Yeah,
because you gotta make sure people go out and see it.
Yeah.
So you're battling with other people's eyes. You're battling for people's attention, and so you have to put money behind the distribution and placement. I think that's Dakota brought just brilliantly. It's all about how businesses take those videos and use them, because we can make videos all day long and they can be fantastic and whatnot, and they can represent business as well, but if they're not seen, they will go nowhere.
Yeah. And it's just, I've heard so many times like, oh, well, we did this video and it cost so much and I didn't get any business from it. I was like, well, what did you do with it? Well, I put it on my YouTube page.
How many subscribers do you have?
you have 0 subscribers and you got 20 views. Of course that happened. You got to have a plan with this, you know?
Well, one of the other important pieces, if I can jump in on that, is it's not necessarily just about like, it's not a one-to-one, like I'm going to push this button and all of a sudden business is going to happen. Yeah. It's like, it's an investment, like you said, but it's also, it's a return on investment that a lot of times we can't see. We don't really necessarily know that like the awareness that the video raised, like the you know, the ears that it perked up on moving to Bellingham. I have no idea who said, nobody's actually come to me and said, hey, I bought this house because I saw your video. They probably just saw the video and then started digging further. And then all of a sudden, boom, we're in touch.
They're buying a house. Attention, they wanted to learn more, and then you got a sale. You know?
So just from a kind of like an unbiased, well, I am biased, but I'm not on your side of the table here. In support of you guys, I would say that for people that are looking into video that are trying to figure out what the value is, I mean, the value of creating the story is important, but like the step after that is also accepting that you're talking about maybe 10x over 10 years or 10x over 1 year or 10x over 6 months. It's not a, hey, you push a button and boom, this awesome film that Dakota and Evan created is like immediately going to give you business and there's a guaranteed return. And it's like, no, this is on you too about how you distribute it. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And especially like, again, in that initial meeting is you have to find out what kind of niche that they're wanting to market to. It's like, well, who are you marketing to? Well, everybody.
That gives us nothing.
No, you need to see what your specific value is, who's going to find the most value out of that, test out a few different audiences, see which one gets you the most return on your investment, and then sell to that. And it'll just be so much more effective than just putting it out for everyone. Because like Evan said, you know, everybody's competing for attention nowadays. And if you don't have them within the first 3 seconds, then it's going to do nothing for you. But if you're, you know, selling, I don't know, beer, if you're selling beer cans to a brewery, then you just say, oh, well, we have the best beer cans for this price at whatever. And it's like, okay, I need that.
Yeah.
You really have to define what your specific audience is.
Yeah. And once you find out your audience and what works and what's, you know, I mean, a lot of people are doing surveys and like, hey, which thing did you like most? And people are gathering more information, more personal information is being shared on the regular. How many times have you looked up something on Google, just like Googled maybe like, hey, I'm looking for a sweatshirt for this winter or something like that. And all of a sudden on your Facebook, sweatshirt, like just everywhere. I mean, like that just happened yesterday. I'm like, more information is being shared and exchanged more than ever. And so it's like, and then all that advertising information is being pumped into other people. Mm-hmm. So it's being aware of your audience and being aware of what is, you know, what works with people and how, you know, I mean, we've been researching on how people are clicking and how people are selling and buying and things. And that's changing how we film. That's honestly, you wouldn't be a smart advertiser without recognizing how it affects your way of storytelling and your way of getting people to engage with material.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely have to do some research on how to structure an ad. I mean, to take it even further within your video, it's best to have like some sort of an offer saying, you know, if you follow through to the end of this video, we'll have a special offer if you click through for 20% off this, or a free PDF guide on how to do this, or something like that. It's like, oh, something for free? Okay, I want.
Yeah.
And then those people that click through, you can analyze that data, and it's like, okay, the people that were interested enough to click on it, that's who I'm selling to. That's my audience. How do I play to that audience?
Yeah. This is just simple Facebook advertising, you know, it's simple, you know, then all those videos that, you know, we create for businesses and stuff is great for them to be able to use and stuff. But honestly, what we love to do is just tell stories. We love to tell stories, and, you know, you can have a great ad and everything, but if it doesn't tell a good kind of story, it still kind of tends to fall flat for most people. Yeah. So
vulnerability, right? Like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finding that good middle ground too, between like the high concept art that we like to do and then the more salesy marketing type stuff. It's like, you got to find that middle ground.
Yeah.
Instead of just trying to have this super high concept like art film trying to sell socks, you know.
Tarantino over here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd buy them. It would be a really slow, long ad, right? And at the end, all the socks would like fall out of the sky or something. That's how the Tarantino movies go, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have seen ads like that where like you're almost in tears at the end, and it's just like an advertisement for an electronics store, and you're like, "Are you serious?
Yeah.
Electronics store?
Like what?
Yeah. I've seen some great things for some
amazing ads.
Some amazing ads. They're like 6 minutes long at times, and it's just for an electronics store. I'm like, how on earth did that? First off, that electronics store be able to afford that? Secondly, like that is insane, incredible storytelling that I was engaged with. But also, you know, I like stories. And I like watching, you know, really engaging filmmaking. So
those are ones that try to play more into your emotion instead of the product.
Yeah.
It's like, I just want to grab this person's emotion and have them connect.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, people don't relate to products. They relate to people. They relate to others, individuals. So being able to put people in the central spot of that rather than your product, you're always going to get a better result, because people cannot relate to products. But if they see that person that they relate to using a product, that's when they're going to start being able to connect with that individual.
Yeah.
Right. It's their path to that lifestyle that they want.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's talk more about Brewingham.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So tell me a little bit more about the story. We talked about the intro, like how it all came to be. You've got this target, as Dakota says, optimistic target date of September. Tell me a little bit more about the vision of where you want to be, if you don't mind sharing, of where you guys want to be in September. If everything plays out the way it should, like we want it to.
Yeah.
If it plays out the way we want it to, the goal is to really take this and be able to promote it and be able to open up to a large audience and be able to take this on a special premiere tour. The goal is really to make the Chef's Table of craft beer. People are familiar with Chef's Table on Netflix. It's an amazing show, incredible documentary series about chefs all across the world, Michelin chefs all across the world, and their life journey to becoming, you know, one of the top chefs in the world. And so that's what we really want to do with Brewingham, is to kind of create that, because there's nothing currently on the market like that. And so we really wanted to be the first ones to kind of make that happen. And so that's why it's taken us so long, is because we really wanted to get the right funds, the right people attached to it, the right story, and really find that. Otherwise you can spray and pray, which is what we call just capture as much as you can to hope you found something with it along the way.
We'll figure it out in the edit.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, no, you measure 2 or 3 times and you cut once. And so that was our goal, is really to make sure that we had the right story angle and the right people behind it and the right elements, because this is a long-term investment, because we really want to be able to launch this into a big realm of craft beer drinkers who have not seen a story like this within the industry. So if we're opening in September, we really hope to open at the Mount Baker Theater and to be able to have a big release. Obviously, with everything being shifted around, we're still trying to figure out what that looks like and how everyone's reacting to this current shutdown, because there are some people that are going to be shut down for the foreseeable. You know, all our major events are canceled throughout the year. You know, people are already making those decisions now, which I think is a little bit premature, you know, but people are being cautious. I understand people's wanting to take care of their business well, which is one of our, optimistically, if that happens, we will then take this movie on the road to to basically a special premiere tour through other craft beer towns throughout the U.S. Yeah. So our goal is to reach as far as Asheville, North Carolina. Yeah. And so that's like another big. Awesome. Yes, there's
some beer festivals that we want to try and have a premiere at.
Yeah. And so a lot of promotion. We have our little tent that we would pop up and be able to promote at, and be able to give tickets away and be able to have people, because it really is an event film. Yeah. And we don't want to sacrifice it by going straight to a streaming platform, which is great and everything. Yeah. But it would only have to be the right deal to be able to do that. Yeah.
And it's like we were just kind of talking about, you don't want to advertise to everyone. You want to find your niche. So we're going to go to beer towns and beer festivals where people want to watch a movie about beer.
So, and then past that point, then we'll start talking distribution deals. Yeah. Once we finish our special premiere tour, that's when we're going to talk distribution deals with distributors across the U.S. You know, whether that's in Netflix. We've been talking with people within Netflix, and we've talked to a couple of people within other streaming platforms, but it's still kind of like everyone wants to see a first cut. Yeah. Everyone wants to see a first cut of the film, no matter how many proof of concepts you present to them. Yeah. They always want to see a rough cut of the film before they put down any type of investment or anything.
Which is something we learned early on, because we had tried contacting Netflix early on, seeing if this was an idea that they'd be interested in.
Yep.
And they're like, listen, we get thousands of ideas every day. You need to bring us your proof.
You got to bring us your whole entire thing, basically. They want it to, they want it basically all the way done before they slap their sticker on it.
Well, Nate,
all right, you did it.
It's tough because, and I see the path that you're on right now, because it's tough for you in that regard, because Netflix has that leverage. They can say, well, we love the idea, but there's also this thing about craft pillows too, and we want to see, like,
it was great.
Yeah, it was just so good. The beads on the pillow were so detailed.
Made me want to go to sleep real bad.
But like, I understand that. So you're trying to find that balance of how do you like build this, because I think the concept is brilliant and it's got a perfect market to it, and that market's growing every day.
Mm-hmm.
But the challenge is you need to get it. You want to get it to the point where you can go back to a Netflix and have that leverage and say, great, I get that you want that, but we have these other opportunities, and we want this to be here because we understand the value of the platform. So having more of a peer-to-peer conversation at that point.
Yeah. And that's why we wanted to do the special premiere tour, to also rack up our social footprint, because when you're selling something to that kind of juggernaut, you want to have some more than 1,000, followers. You want to have like 20,000 or 50,000 people behind you saying like, we love this. We are going to be on board with this. That way you have more leverage when you come to the table and say, hey, listen, we have a great platform already here. We would love to give it to you guys, and here's how we can negotiate that. So, if you come with a bigger sledgehammer, they're going to take you more seriously.
Yeah. Here's our film, and here's a huge audience behind it as well.
Yeah.
So
kind of tee it up for them.
Yes.
For you guys, we talked a little bit about entrepreneurship and the passion behind it, and like, if you're not passionate about it, you're not going to be able to get through the tough times. And right now we're in a tough time, right? So we're at this point where there's entrepreneurs, so our audience is really entrepreneurs in the community, people that aren't entrepreneurs, maybe they're employees, but they also want to hear who the people are behind these businesses and these different companies and what they're going through at this time, because they want to be supportive. But tell me a little bit more. What's a message that you'd like to send to other entrepreneurs, people within our community leaders, about this particular tough time?
Get creative. Get creative. I feel like, that's what, it's the whole entire thing of your series, Pivot. It's like, that's literally how we can continue to operate, is to find ways of pivoting, to find, I feel like a lot of people got within the first three or 4 weeks have just been really down. And it's like, well, you can't afford to be down. You can only use this as an opportunity to be excited about what's around the corner, and you can only find ways. We were just talking about like, well, this could be a new plot thread in Brewingham. This could be this is global, which would end up turning into more profitable, because we would have more leverage to sell to an individual who could be like, yeah, I want that beer documentary talking about how it affected how COVID affected craft beer in the US and things like that. Would be an interesting angle. So you got to pull all these interesting elements and saying like, how can I benefit from this? Not necessarily ethically, of course, and you don't want to be taking advantage of people in a bad spot, but I think you got to figure out how to stand out amongst the crowd amongst this, obviously this really sad situation. And so I think, we were talking about it like, well, let's go film some empty streets, and let's go film some empty areas, because this is going to be history for long terms, for documentaries and movies who are going to be done on this. They'll probably want some stock footage to be able to use for future things, because this global event, there's no way it's not going to be documented or talked about later on. There's no way it's not going to be
historical.
It's historical
now, but it's going to be history.
Yeah, exactly.
And running with that, like, see what's out there that's not available and go create it. Because when we got this film, we needed some stock footage of empty streets. We couldn't find any.
Yeah.
It's like, how is there no footage of just empty, barren streets?
Yeah.
So like, okay, well, I guess that's something that's needed. Let's go capture that.
Exactly. And so then you see all these ads coming out now within the past, 2 months. You've seen like ad on ad on ad. They almost play identical to each other. Somber piano music, empty streets, and everything. I'm like, oh, this
slow push.
Yeah, slow push of the stream. Like that's we've seen so many, and then this narrator come over the ambience and stuff, just talking about how we're gonna persevere and everything. I'm like, That's great. I've seen it 200 times.
Mm-hmm.
So it's finding ways and being creative and being able to step out and being able to say, this is how I'm going to be different. This is how we have to pivot as a company. And this is how, us individually, obviously all our jobs got canceled. Obviously that really, really sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, it's like, well, it's time for us to beef up our stock footage game, whether that's like old footage that we've shot on other jobs, because everyone's going to be relying on stock footage for the foreseeable future because a lot of productions have been canceled and, prohibited. So that way it's like, well, a lot of active productions can't be reaching out and getting all this content. So it's going to be people relying on stock footage. So it's like, how do you beef up your own stock footage? How do you build that YouTube channel that you've been wanting to build? It's like everyone's doing live streaming and conversations like we're doing right now, and being able to start our own channel. We started doing occasional creatives versus COVID thing. It's just like talking about how people, and then we did our Kolshoff. It's like these little things that in ways that we can continue being productive and building our audience and building people and giving somebody some value at the same time as being able to build yourself up. So it's literally, like you said, it's pivoting. It's adapting to our given circumstances without being down on yourself, being vulnerable and saying, yes, we've been affected. But it's also about how you can do that. Yes. And you take that, yes, I've been affected and we're going to be doing this, and this is how we're responding. So,
and also, I feel like everybody's already heard it, but take this time as an opportunity to learn something new. Teach yourself how to run a successful ad online, how to do Facebook ads or Instagram ads. Learn that skill so you can provide that value and essentially just plan for the future. It's like, okay, this is, hopefully temporary. So when I come out of this, what am I going to be able to bring to the table so I can, just 10x my results fast? It's like, okay, well, I am now able to bring all of this to the table because you just take the time to learn how to do it. Everyone's got so much downtime. Read some marketing books, read some other like copywriting books, practice how to, practice editing so you're able to edit faster and turn around stuff within a day. Just take this time to build your skills.
Yeah. And take your time to buy more equipment.
Yeah.
We've been buying more equipment to kind of sharpen our, get our turn on a lot quicker and everything.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. You're going to say take this time to buy more beer. That's also something.
That too. Yes, always buy more beer.
Support local breweries.
Yes. We'll be doing a couple more of these little, like we did that Kolshoff that one night. I think the next one we're going to do, we'll probably do it pretty soon. It's going to be on sour beers, which is going to be really fun. So we're going to talk about different sours across Bellingham. And I think we're going to call it Sour Batch Kids.
I see what you did there. Dad jokes. That's a classic dad joke.
Man. Yeah, well, I've got a kiddo. Like I've got full dad jokes just all day long. So.
And Dakota's just intrinsically has dad jokes. He's
He's already an old man. So
I was born old.
Yeah. So
Benjamin Button over here. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think it really just comes down to people accepting where we're at and being able to say, yes, we're at this spot and here's what we're going to do with it. There's no room for pessimism, or there's no room for being just pessimistic about things. You got to be optimistic. You got to be finding ways to continue to serve your community and continue to find ways that your business is going to change, because we're like I said, like a lot of our jobs, once this does lift, it's not going to there are going to be long lasting effects. So you might as well build what you can to find new ways of making revenue. So
one of my favorite philosophies, it's a Stoic philosophy. It's, if it's out of your control, you don't worry about it because you can't control it anyways. All you can do is control how you respond to it. And so that's kind of how I like to think about things. It's like, well, I can't control this. All I can control is how I respond to it. And I'm going to try and respond in the best, most positive way possible.
Yeah. Focus on what you can control, right?
Exactly.
Focus on those things. So as far as Brewingham goes, we are going to optimistically say, and we're going to put this out in the universe, that middle of September, is that about right?
Middle of September,
that feels right.
Yeah, sounds good.
September, that's about right. Okay, I'm feeling that. Middle of September, Mount Baker Theaters, big spotlights going either direction like this. So everybody that's watching this, these guys are awesome, aren't they?
Stay like this the whole time.
Yeah.
Yes.
But seriously, keep an eye out for Brewingham. September, I know I'll be going to watch the movie, hopefully the premiere, if they allow me there, drinking a cider, But I don't know, man.
I'm sure there'll be beer there.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
No. But keep an eye out for Brewingham. Go follow them on the Brewingham Facebook page and Instagram to see what they're up to with their journey. I've been just kind of following, and that's how I felt like I knew Evan, but I've never met Evan, which is awesome. That's what we're talking about, this story, right? Mm-hmm. And for those of you that are on the fence about content, I mean, I am a huge proponent of it. If anyone wants to talk to me about the work that these guys do and why it's so important, and not just because they're on the podcast, but because I believe it to my core, I'm happy to talk more. They're obviously happy to talk more about it. And you can find them. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, to that point, so many people are worried. It's like, well, I got to make all this content for social media and I got to worry about that. No, that's our job. You just come find us and we worry about that for you.
Yeah.
You know,
you do your thing. You do what you're best at. Yeah, absolutely.
You focus on your business. We'll focus on your creative.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, Evan, obviously, if people want to connect with you and Dakota, they can find you on Facebook. You guys are probably open to conversations about creativity, filmmaking. You know, if someone wants an inspiration, if they want to crack a beer with you on a Zoom call, I'm sure you guys would be game with that.
Always.
Oh, I suppose.
Yeah. So if you want to reach out to us, we have our Facebook and our Instagram. They're all Brewing Ham Movie. Mm-hmm. That's our project one. And out of that, the production company is Pollock Pictures, Pollock Pictures. And then Dakota Huntley and Huntley Motion.
Huntley Motion, yep.
Yep. And so those are our two separate entities that are working on this project.
Yep.
And so I mean, I run 3 Instagrams. I run my landscape photography one, the Pollock Pictures one, and then Brewingham. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it gets a little bit tedious, but anybody who wants to talk about any type of filmmaking, any type of advertising, marketing, or just crack a beer and talk about, you know, the tough times we're in and what we want to do as we get out of it, we're all for that.
It's like we said, this is our passion, so we love talking about it.
Talking about it.
I just want to have
tell they like beer and they like making movies.
Yeah.
So. Hence the reason they crashed them together and made a beer movie.
Exactly.
So for everybody that's watching and that will go watch it, cheers! Thank you so much for joining us today. Go follow Pollock Pictures. Can't cheers and not drink. I just want to make sure I did that. Pollock Pictures, Brewingham Movie, and Huntley Motion. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today on the Pivot Series. Stay tuned for more next week.
Thank you, Leo. I appreciate it. Thanks for having us on, man.
Yeah.
No problem. Thanks for joining me.